Hey friends, welcome to Method Unstoppable. I'm Clark, and today we're talking about the pendulum effect. So, quick story. I was leading a workshop recently, and it was about giving and receiving feedback. And one of the lessons of the day was the importance of timely and honest feedback. And one of my participants pushed back on the need for delivering feedback with that level of honesty. He said that he had tried honest feedback and he wasn't getting a good response from his team. Now, as I asked him questions about it, I learned that he had recently read the book Radical Candor, and he started giving feedback based on what he had learned in that book. One of the key teachings in that book is to challenge directly. Now, he said something like this. He said, "Now when I see something off, I waste no time telling them what they did wrong. I'm direct and I'm honest, but it can come off as blunt. But, radical candor." And I remember thinking, I see. So it turns out this leader forgot the other half of the core teaching of that book, Radical Candor. That other half is care personally. This leader fell victim to the pendulum effect. He read a book which teaches the need to challenge directly, and he went all the way, throwing out the human connection side of the equation. This is a pattern that I see over and over with leaders, high achievers, and just generally with people in general. They read a book, they get inspired, and they go all in. And then 6 months later, they've swung so far in the other direction that they've created a whole new set of problems. This is the pendulum effect, and it is everywhere. The pendulum effect happens when we overcorrect so hard, we swing from one extreme to another, and we never find balance. And just like Goldilocks taught us many years ago, it's not about being too soft or too firm. It's the just right spot that's somewhere in the middle. Before continuing, let's define terms. The pendulum effect describes the oscillation between extremes in our behaviors, ideologies, and our reactions. In simple terms, when you notice a problem on one side, you swing so hard to fix it that you create an equal or worse problem on the other side. Or when you learn something new, you go all in on that new idea and you abandon what you've learned before. Here's how it shows up in leadership. Let's say you're too hands-off and you get feedback that you need to be more engaged. So you switch and you swing to the other side and you become a micromanager. Or maybe you're too soft and passive, and so you swing to being too direct and too harsh. Maybe you're too focused on relationships, and so you shift to being purely transactional. Even outside of leadership in regular life, maybe you don't like your old eating habits, and so you take on some new extreme diet and you get rid of an entire food group. Or you might recognize that you're on your phone too much, so you delete all your social media apps. The problem isn't that you course correct. Course correction is great. The problem is that you overcorrect and you abandon nuance and you lose the middle ground. And in life and in leadership, the middle ground is where effectiveness lies. It is the outer edges where we create problems. So let me give you a current example with the world of AI right now. A couple of years ago, most leaders were ignoring AI because they said, it's not relevant. It's not relevant to our business. We'll wait and see. But now they're racing to adopt it everywhere. They are trying to inject AI into hiring, into customer service, into strategy, into everything. And look, I'm not anti-AI. I use it. It's powerful. It's transformative. But watching leaders swing so hard toward AI adoption that they're not thinking of second order effects, it's just tough. They're automating processes without considering what happens when AI gets it wrong or when human intervention is required. And they're replacing human judgment with algorithms, and they're not asking, what are we losing? What's the cost? What's the middle ground? What's the nuance? And they're adopting tools because everyone else is, not because it actually solves a problem. This is the pendulum in action. The first swing was to ignore AI completely because it wasn't ready. But the second swing was adopt AI everywhere without critical thinking. Neither extreme is effective. But you know what? Our brains, our pendulum doesn't care. We will tend to swing. Now, given that I'm in the leadership development space, let me share with you how I've seen this play out with 3 popular leadership books. Now, these 3 books, they're all great. I love them. I read them. I've reread them, and I recommend them. But again, when leaders swing to the extreme, they miss the point entirely. They miss the point of the book. The first example is Extreme Ownership by Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin. Now, their book is this powerful take on responsibility as a leader. The core message is own everything. Don't blame your team. Don't blame circumstances. Own it. And they state there's no bad teams, only bad leaders. Now, this is good advice, and there's power in taking responsibility. But when leaders take this too far, they stop letting their team own anything. Every mistake becomes, oh, that's on me. I'll handle it. Every decision becomes, oh, I need to be involved because I'm responsible. And every failure becomes, oh, I should have prevented that. And suddenly, the leader who read a book about ownership has created a team of people who don't own anything, who can't own anything. And the team stops taking initiative. And why would they take initiative? The leader's going to swoop in and own it anyways. Also, the team stops learning from mistakes. And again, why would they? Their leader already took the blame. The team ends up becoming dependent and the leader becomes a bottleneck. This is the pendulum effect. The intent was good. The execution just swung too far. Now, the authors, Jocko and Leif, they actually had so many questions about this pendulum effect that they wrote a follow-up book called The Dichotomy of Leadership. And this explores how we have to both own everything, but also give our team opportunity to own things. And they share the nuance in this principle. The second book is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Now, Simon's book is all about understanding purpose before taking action. And his core message, he was discovered / made popular by a YouTube video where he shared this concept called the golden circle. And the theme of that golden circle is people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Now, in his book, Start With Why, he shares that to get the most out of your team, leaders have to lead with that why, with that purpose. And this is solid advice. But what happens when leaders take it too far? Well, they get stuck thinking about their why and never taking action. They might say, well, I can't launch this product until I'm clear on my why. I can't even start development until I'm clear on my why. I can't hire that person until I understand how they can align with our why. I can't make this decision until I've articulated the deeper purpose. And they wait and wait and wait. And the team is thinking, come on, make a decision already. Now, meanwhile, competitors are moving and opportunities are passing. Starting with why is important, but if you never move past why and figuring that out, you're just philosophizing. If you're not choosing a why, putting a stake in the ground and moving forward, then you're always going to be behind your competitors who are taking action. At some point, you have to act. The third example is the book Radical Candor by Kim Scott. Fantastic book, and it's all about this core theme of care personally and challenge directly. The core message is that you can be kind and honest at the same time. Don't avoid feedback. Don't sugarcoat it. Care enough to be direct. This is a great principle. But I've seen leaders take this too far and use radical candor as permission to be an asshole. I'm just being radically candid. It becomes this excuse for delivering feedback without empathy or without care and full of judgment and assumptions. They challenge directly, but forget the care personally part. And they prioritize honesty over kindness and call it feedback. But there's an unintended consequence here. Their team stops trusting them because radical candor without care is just being cruel. The book was about balance, care, and challenge. But again, the pendulum swings to challenge at all costs, and it leaves care behind. So why do we do this? Why do we swing from one extreme to another instead of find in the middle? Well, here are 4 reasons. First is overcorrection. You notice a problem. You're too soft, so you swing to being too hard. Or you're too controlling, and so you swing to being completely hands-off. The problem's real, but the solution that you're implementing just overshoots. And our mind thinks, well, if this is the problem, then the opposite must be the solution. Now, this also goes with number 2, black and white thinking. It's easier to go all in on one approach than to hold tension between two ideas. So, for example, own everything is simpler than saying, okay, own what's yours and empower your team to own what's theirs. Always be candid is simpler than saying be candid in ways that show that you care, because extremes are pretty easy, cognitively speaking, and nuance requires more cognitive effort to create discernment. Number 3, trend chasing. This could also be peer pressure. When everyone is talking about AI or a new leadership framework or a new management philosophy, there's pressure to adopt it. And when you adopt it, you want to go all in because halfway feels like you're not committed. And plus, everyone else is doing it. We don't want to get left behind. But going all in oftentimes means losing sight of what works on the other side of the spectrum. So in the leadership development space, we have been battling the pendulum of vulnerability and empathy. Now, these 2 principles, vulnerability and empathy, are core requirements for building trust and understanding our team's problems. The pendulum has swung far enough where many leaders are now excusing bad behavior for the sake of empathy. Many leaders are also leaning into vulnerability so much that they undermine their own resolve and their own credibility. So be careful here, friends. The answer is in the middle, not the extreme. Number 4, lack of self-awareness. Most of us don't realize that we've swung to an extreme until someone points it out. Now, leaders think they're being decisive and they don't realize that they've become controlling. They think that they're being honest and they don't realize that they've become harsh. The pendulum swings and they're just not aware of how far it is swung. These are all normal responses that are human responses. So what do we do about it? How do we stop swinging from one extreme to the other? Well, there's a few things that we can do. Number 1, name the middle ground. Before we adopt a new approach, ask yourself or ask ourselves, what's the balanced version of this? If the idea is own everything, the balanced version is own your leadership while empowering your team to own their work. If the idea is start with why, then the balanced version could be clarify your why, then take action. If the idea is radical candor, be radically candid, then the balanced version is to care personally and challenge directly. Don't just adopt the extreme. Define the middle. The second thing that we can do is test before we commit. When you read a new book about a new approach, test it. Try it with one team member. Try it in a meeting. Try it with one of your direct reports. Try it on a project. See what works and what doesn't, then adjust. Don't just go all in on day 1. The pendulum swings fastest when you overcorrect without consideration or data. So give yourself time for consideration and to process data. Number 3, get feedback. Ask your team, how is this landing with you? If you're trying to be more direct, ask your team, hey, am I being too harsh? How can I be more direct without coming across as aggressive? If you're trying to empower your team, ask, am I being too hands-off? Your team will tell you if you've swung too far, but only if you ask. For years, I taught leaders coaching skills while I was at Microsoft, and I got to witness the pendulum effect in full effect. We would first teach leaders how to coach, and then we would meet back in a month to practice more skills and update, etc. And oftentimes, we would hear leaders come back, and they would share all these experiences where they were practicing their coaching skills. And there were oftentimes a common pain point where their team would say something like, I don't need coaching here. I just need you to share your advice to make a decision. So many of the leaders that I worked with swung the pendulum from being a very decisive, a non-curious leader to this coaching approach, which is very effective, but it was the only approach that they were applying in their meetings. And the coaching approach wasn't effective for every situation. So they had firsthand experience about how swinging on the coaching pendulum all the way over here wasn't effective. But if we get data and input along the way, we can make sure we're not swinging and that we're honoring the nuance and getting into the middle. Number 4, remember, it is and, not or. Most leadership device isn't either or. It's a both and. So own your leadership and empower your team. Be kind and be honest. Move fast and think strategically. Adopt new tools and think critically. The pendulum swings when you pick a side, and your effectiveness lay in the area in the middle when you leverage both. Now, friends, the pendulum effect is everywhere. Leaders swing from ignoring AI to adopting it everywhere. They swing from being too soft to being too harsh. They go from one leadership philosophy to another without finding balance. And every time they swing, they create new problems. The solution isn't to stop learning, and it's not to stop trying new things. The solution is to stop overcorrecting. So to do this, name the middle ground. Test it before you commit. Get feedback from your team. And then hold and in your mind instead of or. Because remember, your effectiveness isn't found in the extremes, but it's in the balance between them. So before you go all in on the next big idea, ask yourself, am I course correcting or am I overcorrecting? Am I finding balance or am I just swinging the pendulum? Your performance will thank you and your team will thank you for the nuance. Go crush it, friends. Thank you for being here. If you are not yet subscribed to Method Unstoppable, the newsletter, then you are missing out on getting these learnings delivered to your inbox. If you want to join, I'll go ahead and put a link in the description. Until next time, friends.